I mean, it's not even like whatever this person does to respond to Zack Snyder, they're already making a mistake. You know what I mean?
Especially right, because
if they're operating under the premise that Zack Snyder is some kind of taste maker or like speaks for anyone, right? Like what? Like
for filth. Oh my god.
Especially because it's like, like Zack Snyder isn't like some insane leftist. Like Zack Snyder is like a literal like Ayn Rand like fanboy, right?
Is he? But he probably like votes Democrat. You know, he's like a centrist in the end.
He probably he probably does. But like look, like his next film project is gonna be like adapting The Fountainhead, right?
Oh, interesting. That's crazy.
It is.
Wow.
Hog wild.
Wow. I mean, yeah, like, it just kind of, when someone thinks, like, oh, Zack Snyder has spoken, I must respond, you already know that person lives in quite a tiny little media world.
Yeah, especially because
right?
it's like these, like, 3-hour live streams.
Yeah,
of just, like, you got, like, 6, like, white guys molding over, like, some random internet statement in, like, some promo stream.
Talking about trying to thread a needle or like say something that's like that's relevant to like as few people as possible. Like those liberals out there who idolize Zack Snyder because he is no further left than that, and who consider like anyone left of Zack Snyder to be beyond the pale, but who are also concerned to distinguish themselves from people further right than them. They're like slicing off this tiny little like this little like nanoplane of nerdy centrism and saying like that's where I stand. I'm making the bold stand
and it's also
of being a centrist nerd.
It's just but that's that's like the that's like 80% of what these like anti-SJW types are to me. Just this like faux centrism, this like insanely like online attitude. I don't know. It actually just came to mind that it's probably worth noting that EVS this isn't like the first instance of like anti-Asian like hate or whatever, because he's done this for years with the Rose Tico character on Star Wars.
And again, that's like if you're out there with a sniper rifle trying to change the world by assassinating someone, and the person you want to assassinate is who, like J.J. Abrams, or like what? Who exactly? Like who are you setting in your sights that this is going to affect anything?
Yeah, what is your world of the view? What is your view of the world?
Yeah, I don't know.
Myopic, to say the least.
The Star Wars franchise is the battlefield on which you want to like have your values be tested.
Oh God, I remember when.
Who cares?
It was so great when Last Jedi came out. Do you know Sargon of Akkad? He's like another like online reactionary.
Yeah,
he made a video where he was like, "Oh, so it's a purple-haired woman and she's telling a guy what to do. Whoever enjoys this movie is a gender communist." That was like
he doesn't know what he's talking. It's like getting mad about Lady Ghostbusters. Like, who cares? It just doesn't matter. It's just a big movie. Like, it's just a big money making product. Yeah.
Oh,
so, on the subject of internet controversy and charged reactions, is this as good a time as any to seek into Children of the Atom, which is finally here?
True.
Let's do it. Welcome, listeners, to a long-awaited episode of School for Gifted Youngsters. We are here today to discuss S.W.O.R.D 4, X-Force 18, X-Factor 8, and Children of the Atom 1, not necessarily in that order, as well as X-Men Demon Days number 1.
Oh, and Hellions 10, right?
Yeah!
And Hellions 10. We, of course, are Marius.
Hello.
Ian.
Howdy, Homo sapiens, Homo superiors, and homos in general. All our students, all our teachers. Waka waka.
And me, Nolan. And Hellions 10 was actually the oldest of these issues, I think. Is that right? It came out longest ago?
I think it came out...
2 weeks back? Yeah, because we got 3 weeks. We got 3 weeks worth of comics going 2 comics per week. So it's going to be Hellions, which came out with X-Men Demon Days. Last week was X Factor and the long-awaited Children of the Atom issue 1. And this week brings us hot, fresh S.W.O.R.D, concluding our opening King in Black arc, and X-Force.
That is right. So sorry for the delays, listeners. Moving is a hell of a drug. It's
especially now.
Yeah, especially in COVID time, especially when winter has been over a year long and may have finally ended today. Okay, so starting with Hellions then, what'd y'all think of Hellions?
I actually think this is one of the best issues of Hellion so far. I liked it. It didn't like blow my mind, but I liked it quite a bit. I don't know if have any of you read Grant Morrison's Justice League?
Oh yeah. Yes, I have read Morrison's 90s JLA run. I actually only just recently finished it.
I didn't read a lot of it, but I remember reading one issue of it that my dad had in his comic book collection, and it was I don't know what exactly it was, but it was very similar to this, where like each of the characters was sort of like telepathically enclosed into some sort of like scenario that reveals some of their greatest fears in life. I usually like this kind of stuff. There's a number of comic book issues that go that route, but I thought it was done pretty tastefully here. And it's always good to learn some more about, some of the main characters. I feel like, that hasn't necessarily always been the case so far in this book. I like the empath stuff. That was just, that was delightfully terrifying. Especially, like that one panel where he's like awesome after learning that he's at a table with all the people he's ever caused pain. It's like the delight he takes in it. That's just so, it sends a shiver down your spine. I like that kind of stuff about this book. It was pretty good.
I thought so too. It's what I expect Hellions to be: gruesome, funny. Hectic. It still holds out the promise of being part of a somewhat longer, more consequential arc than previous arcs have been. I'm not so sure, but the possibility remains, at least.
Yeah, this issue felt denser. It felt like we were spending more time with these characters. Normally, Hellions is a pretty light, breezy read of manic, cartoonishly violent action and jokes. I feel like we actually got to spend more time with our characters as individuals with their mastermind nightmare scenarios, where we see Psylocke, Greycrow, and Havoc dreaming of easier lives unburdened by past mistakes, while, Empath, Wild Child, Nanny, and Orphan Maker have less relatable fantasies. I do want to claim a no prize, though, because did y'all notice that Arcade seems to have captured the wrong mastermind daughter?
No.
What?
There's multiple mastermind daughters?
Yes.
There's two, I think. But wait. So why is this the wrong one?
Yeah, this one is Reagan Wingard, Lady Mastermind, as first appeared in Chris Claremont's Extreme X-Men and was a cast member in Carrie's run for a stretch there. This is also the second time since Hawksbox that she has been kidnapped and used against Krakoa. See also Giant Size X-Men Nightcrawler #1. The mastermind that Arcade has beef with is her sister Martinique, who fucked with him in the Wolverine Gambit limited series from the 90s. That said, with at least 2 masterminds in the mix, it's easy enough to come up with a no-prize satisfying answer to why it looks like the wrong Wingard girl is here, even if the reality is someone just gave Steven Segovia the wrong reference. For one of two functionally identical characters.
Well, exactly. Like, if the editors decide to just like ignore the existence of one sister and conflate both into one going forward, I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with that.
There's no way that they're doing that, right?
Probably they won't, but it's it would be a neat solution to an untidy problem in a way. Because like, has Martinique done anything since the Gambit Wolverine
I can't remember where she's been seen outside of background cameos.
No, I'm pretty sure like both of them were in the what's his name? Oh come on, Matt Fraction run, like around the 500th issue of Uncanny X-Men.
And do they have different powers from each other?
No, not at
think
all.
so.
They just have their dad's powers.
Yeah, that sounds like. I mean, that to me calls out for the kind of editorial solution that they used to do. Like, well, it turns out they were the same person all along. They had the split personality disorder, or or maybe they were doing a kind of leading a double life using their powers. So people thought they were really two, but there was just one.
Oh,
Who knows?
That's right.
Yeah, you can basically pick your own no prize here, because when we are talking about telepathic illusionists, it's basically just a wizard did it.
Yeah, one of them was a fiction created by Daddy Mastermind all along. The other one was real, maybe, or
No prize.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
The real mastermind daughters, the friends we made along the way.
Yeah, we made them, literally. We created them out of nothing. I mean, one thing I like about the development of his daughter being kidnapped is we can see some, like, real motivation for Mastermind's character going forward here, other than just, like, I love to torture, like, he could actually have some, like, human concerns and insecurities that he is trying to address. So that, that kind of bodes well. Also, the whole setup Arcade has for like ensuring that he hasn't been psychically manipulated. That's
fun.
a Chekhov's gun waiting to go
Oh, that was
off,
so cool. I was expecting that to go off by the end of this issue, but it looks like they're waiting till next issue, which is cool, of course, as well.
It is, yeah. I think that they'll find some clever way to get around that.
No, but that was a great way of introducing tension. It's also just like a fun like way of combining different powers. Like, of course, there would have to be like some sort of like verification process, right? Mm-hmm. It's very well written, I thought.
It is. It has some weaknesses though that I think could be exploited. Including that simply Arcade could merely hallucinate that he's hearing someone say confirm after he says confirm, that just because he hears that doesn't mean someone's really at the other end saying confirm.
I don't see a way the story doesn't end with Arcade suffering at the hands of the Wingard family.
He's gonna end up in his own eternal torture chamber for sure.
Eternal for a year, and then he'll be out.
Maybe
to do villainy again. He definitely can't die. He's not a mutant, so he won't come back. So he can't die.
Oh, that's right.
But something just short of that.
By the way, when do we think Sabretooth is gonna come back?
I mean, if my new hopes are correct, and something is going to hit the fan with the council when the issue of time travel becomes a real sticking point, maybe that'll be the time to open up the oubliette. I don't know.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe take him out for the Hellfire Gala. Emma can, walk him on a leash with one hand while she pushes Shaw in his chair with the other.
This is exactly how people escape from prison in, like, Napoleonic novels. They're, like, let out for some, like, high-status event, and that's the moment. I don't know. I mean, I hope that he's changed. I hope that Sabretooth hasn't just been in, like, mental stasis this whole time, but has been, like, deranged or something by isolation, because he, like Wild Child and Nanny and these other characters who they've taken the opportunity to change somewhat, could use some depth, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything else about Hellions?
No, I think we should move on, right?
Yeah, Hellions good. If you're not buying Hellions, buy Hellions. You won't regret it.
Yeah, you won't. I mean, we still have yet to see what it's feeding into as far as like its role in the next crossover event down the road, but it's good. It's good, no question about that.
Yeah, I've never put down an issue of Hellions and thought anything less than that was fun. That was fun X-Men. Maybe got a
No,
little
but
weird and dark, but that's actually what I like about X-Men.
but remember how you both didn't like the first issue of this book that much?
I did not like it. No,
Because I feel like since like I liked it reasonably well back then, but I really feel like this book has improved somewhat. Now it's one of my favorite books out of the X books, honestly.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, I would like it less if it was continuing to like evoke some kind of like secret possession of Havoc any more than simply that he's in love with Madeline, which is fine.
Right.
And I would like it less if they hadn't changed Wild Child Nanny and Orphan Maker a bit. Yeah, no, it's going well. Next up is X Factor, is that right?
Yeah, unless we want to spare a moment, would we want to mention Demon Days X-Men here now? Came out the same week as Hellions, or we can press on
Yeah,
to
let's
our
go for it.
regular
Let's go
books.
for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah,
Those of you who read the sort of genre piece that evoked manga in Demon Days X-Men, I should be the one who should know all about it, but I only skimmed it.
Yeah, Peach.
I can't say. Honestly, seeing Venom in it makes me like think twice about reading it. But I don't know. What about you?
No, it's actually just Peach Momoko telling a Japanese fairy tale with what Marvel characters she felt like transposing to this sort of ambiguous historical Japan of yokai and oni and wandering ronin. Our central ronin here being Psy, the analog of Psylocke. We also have analogs of Danny Moonstar and Jubilee running around, and Wolverine is a dog.
And we got the Hulk and Venom again.
Yeah, we get a Red Hulk Oni and Venom as some kind of yokai.
Oh, so Wolverine's the dog. That makes sense because he loves to hang out with and guard tween girls. That's Wolverine's favorite thing to do.
It's true.
It's true, yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, I can't really speak to its authenticity. I don't know if Peach Momoko is a Japanese person, then it's authentic, right?
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, she is an artist of Japanese birth.
Yeah. So did she both write and draw it, or was it who wrote it?
Yeah. I think that this was a total Peach Momoko package as the Demon Days series of one-shots moving forward seem to be.
I see, and then they have a translator, an English adaptation writer. So it must be that, like, surely she knows some English, as all young Japanese people do from school, but she must have written it in Japanese, it seems like. Or wrote it in English with a native English speaker to help.
Oh yeah, that's possible. I have a question because I've only read a couple mangas in my life. I'm really not that well read into it. I've heard that it's like in manga, it's very much more common for like I guess you would call it the mangaka to do both writing and art than it is like in Western superhero comics. Is that true?
Like Junji Ito definitely does his own writing and art. He's one of the most famous manga creators. He's a horror author.
Right.
I mean, the writing, for him, is very, like, minor. Like, it's just these little evocations of, like, dread. And then everything is really in the, like, trippy visuals. And the, like, the stories are somewhat reminiscent of, like, Twilight Zone stories. And So those he comes up with, but then the dialogue writing doesn't have much to it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
One of the most influential mangas ever, Lone Wolf and Cub from the 70s, which has been adapted left and right, most recently into something that we all saw that very few people knew it was based on that. Oh, Mandalorian. Most recently into Mandalorian.
Oh.
That was
wrong.
a two-create. No, it totally is. They'll say so. That was a two-person team of like seasoned 70s manga people, like a
gotcha.
writer and an artist working together.
But yeah, as a big fan of the Jack Kirby, John Byrne, Walt Simonson, writer artist, total packaged production. Yeah, I'm interested in seeing what happens in the odd little world of Demon Days moving forward.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this, especially after I don't want to give away too much for Nolan who hasn't read it yet, but there's sort of like a twist on it in terms of the narrative situation by the end of the issue. There was sort that was sort of confusing but also intriguing, and I'm curious to see where this is going.
It's like the Princess Bride conceit. The whole thing is being consumed by a child who won't go to sleep.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Mariko. Who's the Mariko who is... Oh, no. Mom. It's her mom. But she has red hair. She doesn't look like... Who knows?
It's our Japanese Black Widow.
Oh, it's Black Widow. Okay. Trainer of assassins. That would make some sense. Though she has a big room for an assassin in training. I'll have to catch up on the next one, and then I can. Though it does make it look like the next one will be some kind of like modern, more cyberpunk story if it's going to be set in the present.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Sorry, listeners, drop the ball on this one. There's only one bit of Japanese in it that I could translate. It's when Jubilee is doing a split. Is that what she's doing? And it says like. It says something about flowers. I don't know. It might mean fireworks.
Well,
that's a term for.
Yeah, Peach Momoko's Demon Days, X-Men. I thought it was kind of fun.
Yeah, it does look fun. I just when I see Venom, I'm like,
You're
getting too allergic to Venom stuff after the King and Bite stuff. I enjoyed this issue a lot. It was I guess I wouldn't trust myself because I'm not familiar enough with manga and Japanese culture to judge on whether like does this tap into genre tropes or not, right? I feel like I'm not the person to judge there. But while we're on the topic, one thing I did want to bring up is and we've talked about this before on this podcast, the Even Then Scriver stuff. I sent you the link to that. Did you see that Twitter clip?
Evan Van Scriver?
Oh, so basically what happened, like Even Then Scriver, the artist who's been on, he was on Grant Morrison's X-Men. We talked about him before, remember?
Yeah, I did some of Jeff John's Green Lantern work, and I assume that he's continued working in some capacity in the decades since he's stopped doing relevant comics.
Right, and like how he's like a huge he's like sort of dropped out of mainstream comic to do his like weird like reactionary internet man sort of business. But I thought it was worth bringing up because in the wake of the whole apparently Zack Snyder came up with some sort of like statement about like anti-Asian hate, and he was sort of just like like disavowing that part of his like fan community. And so,
the bare minimum.
Right, it is the bare minimum.
Right.
Yeah, like people were celebrating him like he's some kind of hero. It's good that he did it. But again, it's like the bare minimum, right? But so you have people like EVS on like hour-long streams, like just completely mauling over it, and he's making these like weird jokes about how like, oh, this isn't gonna stop me from killing Chinese people. I want to kill more Chinese people. Like this is almost like a direct quote, and it's just like I feel like I want to bring it up on the podcast because I feel like if I don't say something about that, that's like it's just I think it's worth acknowledging like just like how fucked up that part of like the comic book fandom can be, and it's it's so disgusting.
Yeah, he said Chinese people. I assume, I haven't really read about it, but I assume those women killed in Atlanta weren't all Chinese. Maybe some of them? I don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, like for him, I guess like it wouldn't make a big difference. What he said was Chinese
Right.
people. Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
Well, in the words of Regina George, and now she's on crack.
Yeah, I don't know. Conservative, like, leftist edgelords are bad enough. Conservative
True.
edgelords aren't even funny, to be honest. Like, there's not even any kind of, like, good joke there. They just have taken the form of leftist infighting that leftist edgelords sort of, like, jokingly emulate, and then, like, mistaken the form for the content, and, like, think that it's funny to just, like, come out more right than the next person. But then if you ask them, like, are you actually more right than the next person? Are you like a white nationalist or something? They're like, no. So then I don't know what they're joking about. Because like when a sort of far left person makes similar dry jokes, like mocking the positions of Tanky or something, you know what I mean? Like the
Right.
like the Tanky is an avowed Tanky, and the far left person who's like just shy of Tanky is an avowed, I don't know, socialist. Like it's a weird kind of I mean, conservative humor. It's just
I'm not sure that there's enough.
Really.
I'm not sure that there's enough self-awareness for there to be a very sophisticated sense of irony.
No. Right.
Right.
I guess like the point he was trying to make is that like yeah, it's virtue signaling, whatever. You shouldn't talk about it at all. This isn't gonna like stop people from committing hate crimes. But you know, there's just something so like uniquely bizarre and like ghoulish about making that sort of like quote unquote joke. Like I don't even like calling it a joke because it's like haha, kill Chinese people, bottom text. Like it's just that, you know.
I mean, it's not even like whatever this person does to respond to Zack Snyder, they're already making a mistake. You know what I mean?
Especially right, because
if they're operating under the premise that Zack Snyder is some kind of taste maker or like speaks for anyone, right? Like what? Like
for filth. Oh my god.
especially because it's like, you know, like Zack Snyder isn't like some insane leftist. Like Zack Snyder is like a literal like Ayn Rand like fanboy, right?
Is he?
He's got,
but
like,
he probably like votes Democrat. You know, he's like a centrist in the end.
he
He's
probably
like,
yeah, he probably does. But like
Yeah.
look, like his next film project is gonna be like adapting The Fountainhead, right?
Oh, interesting. That's crazy.
It is.
Wow.
Hog wild.
Wow. I mean, yeah, like, it just kind of, when someone thinks, like, oh, Zack Snyder has spoken, I must respond, you already know that person lives in quite a tiny little media world.
Yeah, especially
right?
because it's again, it's like these like 3-hour live streams
Yeah,
of just
they
like you got
don't.
like 6 like white guys molding over like some random internet statement in like some promo stream.
Talking about trying to thread a needle or like say something that's like that's relevant to like as few people as possible, like those liberals out there who idolize Zack Snyder because he is no further left than that, and who consider like
Right.
anyone left of Zack Snyder to be beyond the pale, but who are also concerned to distinguish themselves from people further right than them. They're like slicing off this tiny little like this little
Yeah.
like nanoplane of nerdy centrism and saying like that's where I stand. I'm making the bold stand
And it's
of
also
being
just
a centrist nerd.
yeah, like it's just but that's you know that's like the that's like 80% of what these like anti SJW types are to me. Just this like faux centrism, this like insanely like online attitude. I don't know. It actually just came to mind that you know it's probably worth noting that EVS this isn't like the first instance of like anti-Asian like hate or whatever because you know he's done this for years with the Rose Tico character on Star Wars.
And again, that's like if you're out there with a sniper rifle trying to change the world by assassinating someone, and the person you want to assassinate is who, like J.J. Abrams, or like what? Who exactly? Like who are you setting in your sights that this is going to affect anything?
Yeah, what is
when
your
you're setting
world
in
of
your
the
sights,
view? What
Yeah,
is your
probably
view of
like
the world?
yeah, I don't know.
Myopic, to say the
like
least.
the Star Wars franchise is the battlefield on which you want to like have your values be tested.
Oh
Who
God, I
cares?
remember when
Who cares?
that was so great when Last Jedi came out. Do you know Sargon of Akkad? He's like another like online reactionary.
Yeah,
He made a
who
video
cares?
where he was like, "Oh, so it's a purple-haired woman and she's telling a guy what to do. Whoever enjoys this movie is a gender communist." That was like
Yeah, he doesn't know what he's
yeah.
talking. It's like getting mad about Lady Ghostbusters. Like, who cares? It just doesn't matter. It's just a big movie. Like, it's just a big money-making product. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
God.
I mean,
on the subject of internet controversy and charged reactions, is this as good a time as any to seek into Children of the Atom, which is finally here?
Yes, true.
let's do it. Yeah, the most conflagrant. What's the term? The most a comic meant to start arguments with those people, perhaps.
Oh,
Yep.
that's right. This is like, yeah, this is
It's
this is
here.
a fucking SJW book through and through.
Yeah.
Yeah, give
We
us
got
give us your
At
reactions.
long last, yeah, Virai Allah and Bernard Chang's Children of the Atom is here after a year on the shelf. Vague and unappetizing press and piss poor fan preconceptions colored by racism and transphobia. But yeah, it's finally here. What is it?
This is such a weird book. I actually didn't mind this first issue too much. I thought it was decent enough. I'm not quite sure where it's going. I didn't love some of the action sequences, and I thought it was a bit wordy overall. But I did like the premise around it. Of like, we got this mystery going on, like, are these kids actually mutants? Apparently not, because they can't make it through Cocoa Gates. Like, what is I guess, like, are they shooting up on mutant growth hormone? We don't know. It's yeah, I guess it's all left pretty ambiguously in this issue, because it's supposed to be a big cliffhanger. But yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see where this goes in the future. One thing I thought was notable was that I'm not sure if is this supposed to be sort of like an allegory to trans identities. Like you have a strong sense of identity in this case with like mutantdom, but in the eyes of society. You either like don't belong in that category at all, or you're going to be kept out of that category, or you're going to have to take some sort of substance to get into that category. Like,
I see, like medical procedure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we still don't quite know enough about these kids to be able to say for certain which way Ayala's gonna take it, but I gotta say that the ball is in their court to sell me on what appear to be mutant otherkin in a world where mutants actually obviously exist.
Right.
I see. I mean, it is possible that they're like otherkin, yeah. My first guess is that they are using technology to create these powers. I think the biggest clue about that is that like the one who seems to be the main character for the most part has like a Cyclops-like visor, but when they don't have the visor on, their eyes are fine. Like they don't have to like shield their eyes.
Yeah,
right?
that was
like,
confusing. Yeah.
That indicates that they're just wearing a visor that shoots an eye blast.
For sure, there seem to be like some slight variations on how these powers work. For instance, like the Nightcrawler character doesn't have Nightcrawler's like physique, right?
No, yeah.
It's just like a kid.
Yeah,
Just a kid in
they
a
don't
costume.
have the.
Just
Yeah, they don't have the big drawbacks, right? They neither have the automatic eye blast nor the dishuman figure. They have none of the drawbacks of mute, except that they kind of want the drawback. They want the stigma of being a mutant. They want that one drawback at least. And in that way, you could talk about it like trans identity or, I don't know, like passing, right? Like
Yeah.
the issue of passing in like ethnic and gender questions, like some people, are from a colonized population, but they don't look like it, or they are like half of that ethnicity, and it could be something like that. They could be they could be mutants who are depowered. They could be
Do we have a hard answer on whether depowered mutants can use gates?
No, but anyone can use a gate. We've learned like this
Anyone
again.
can use a gate if they are in the company of a
mutant.
mutant. We do not know if I don't know if it's been explicitly stated whether a depowered mutant counts as a mutant for the purposes of using a Krakoan gate.
No, I don't think we know that, but
I think they don't.
There's ways of getting this. So this is weird. Cyclops is dead. Causa, he can use a gate without always having to have like somebody around. I think, but it's because he was given explicit permission. Which begs the question, like, can these kids like go? Why can't these kids go through a gate because they have had like implicit allowance by Pixie and the other? By the way, it was nice seeing Pixie again.
It was surreal seeing Pixie again. When Magma and Maggot show up and the kids treat them like X-Men that matter, I'm like, okay, is this magazine real or am I being trolled? I mean,
well, I think Magma matters, but Maggot is like Maggot disappeared a long time ago, and this is the first time we've seen him come back.
yeah,
Right.
But we get Pixie here as, since she's the most popular and experienced, I guess she's the leader of this squad that comes to check in on the kids. I don't even know.
Wait, but is Pixie more experienced than Magma?
She's more published. Check out her list of published appearances.
Wow.
Pixie is decades younger, but has been in dozens of more magazines than Magma.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah, that makes sense. She was in Matt Fraction's. That's when I started reading X-Men. She was in Matt Fraction's run on X-Men so much. Like she was always one of the kids who would be around the most. Like she was almost like a main character, I guess.
Yeah, and she's going to be one of the principals in Way of X when we have 14 monthly ongoing magazines.
She is? Wow.
Is that going to be the Nightcrawler?
That's going to be the Nightcrawler one. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean, one answer to the gate question is that like they can be let through the gate. But as is often the way with like teen fiction, like the characters are trying to do something that like any adult can do easily, and that a teenager can probably just do if they do it with the proper like authority of adults.
Yeah.
But they're trying to do it on their own, and it's not working, right? Like that's like common in everything from like Harry Potter to you name it, like.
Yeah. I wonder if they would go like the Patronus in Harry Potter and like X other things in other media where it's just like, you just got to believe in yourself or whatever. Or access your emotions to be able to do it. But I don't think that's what's happening. I feel like this is sort of refreshing. I feel like we're going to see that mystery unravel, and then it's gonna mess with the lives of our main characters in some way that we've yet to see. And it's this is a pretty surprising first issue, I think.
I'm very surprised. Yeah.
Two more things of note. That scene with Jean and the
Yes!
others.
Yes!
Did Jean seem off to anyone?
Like how so?
It was I felt like she was written in a way that was sort of off. Like she was like manipulating the flow of the conversation, especially because she would touch people's faces and then they would like change their mind or attitude about something. I don't know. It's maybe that's just me.
I didn't get that impression. I just got the impression that she was sort of managing Scott, like that Scott is stubborn and sometimes requires a little bit of finesse, and as his longtime on and off partner, she knows how to do that, so she was doing that.
Yeah, no, that's true, but I feel like she was doing the same thing to Aurora, and maybe that's maybe it was just like Aurora is her best friend and Scott is her husband, obviously, I don't even know if I can put my finger on it, but she seemed there was something about the writing of her specifically that was weird to me. But maybe that's just a negative on the book and not like some specific like intentional move.
What was the other thing?
Oh right. Wait, what was the other thing I was going to bring up? Oh, I guess I was going to talk just a tiny bit about how, this book was pretty different from how it was advertised for me. And, this confirms our suspicion that it's always good to give these books a chance to, because this book, I feel like
Right.
almost didn't happen after the social media backlash.
Right.
I really think like this isn't going to be like my favorite book or anything, but I also think that people wouldn't dislike it as much if it had had a better trailer where, like half of the trailer wasn't, oh, so this
Right.
character is like a mod on a subreddit and this character is doing this and that, like.
Right. Well, I mean, it also really leaned into the gender bending as like they basically are just younger gender bent versions of like several core X-Men cast
Yeah.
members, which already invites you to view it as derivative. But I mean, it does make sense to me as a kind of like a 1-2 punch that they presented it as oversimplified in the advertising, only to then reveal some more wrinkles in the actual content.
Yeah.
That seems like a solid method to me. I think part of the problem is the advertising continued after it was supposed to come out already and then just disappeared for half a year or more, and now it's finally come out, and we can see from the
Yeah.
error on the last page that it is like totally unchanged from how it was when it was supposed to come out a year ago.
It's so weird, right? Like
I can only conclude that they spent time like reworking the ensuing issues,
Yeah.
and yeah, the advertising just didn't pay off.
We
So
can
we were
also-
left with that like simplistic impression
I
until
guess
now.
we can also like probably assume that this isn't, because the majority of this book probably isn't going to be taking place on Krakoa if they can't even make it there. So I feel like this book is going to interact less with other titles than other titles would. So it's
Yeah.
probably not too affected from now, instead of taking place in Dawn of X, taking place in Reign of X. Like it probably, for the purposes of this
Right.
book, it probably doesn't make too much a difference.
Yeah, well, I mean, we all noticed how New York was covered with black goo during it, and the students were constantly fighting off latex dragons, and they were still trying to like take their classes and practice basketball, but it's hard when you have to fight off latex dragons at the same time,
Oh man.
Well, we'll
Oh,
be getting
man.
we'll be getting to S.W.O.R.D momentarily, but should we treat X Factor first?
Yes.
Yeah, let's save S.W.O.R.D for last. Okay, X Factor.
X Factor issue 7. Yeah, a few hours before the massacre. We start out with X Factorers watching bad movies, arguing with their dogs about shadows, and piecing together the clues that their boyfriends gave them regarding their own mysterious death, if they're prodigy. We then get Trevor, David, Akihiro, and Amazing Baby all seeing Nightmare on Elm Street 80s horror movie hallucinations, and are deprived of both a clear Doc and ass shot and a proper follow-up of Trevor sobbing into Akihiro's bare chest by the arrival of the Morrigan, Irish goddess of war, death, and ravens, formerly the 90s X-Force aughts X-Factorer, known as Siren, and with all of our established characters with 40, 50-year publishing histories associated with the Claremont era dead, it falls to the new boys to figure out what the fuck is going on and how to stop her.
Yeah, the less powerful characters, though Akihiro is very powerful, but I mean, they all are potentially, but it's sort of, yeah. I was hoping for a kind of a Die Hard vibe from this, like, everyone who doesn't just shoot energy blasts sort of sneaking around, getting the drop, negotiating. It didn't stay on that long. Instead, it shifted to almost all of them dying.
Yep.
They're brought back, and then we get something that came sooner than I expected. This kind of, like, triumphal retaking of the boneyard.
Yeah, this I enjoyed a lot of this issue, and one thing of note that comes up pretty early on in the issue, around the midpoint, is how I feel like this issue finally sold me on iBoy. Like we've seen allusions to that in previous issues, but this issue especially, I thought, tapped into a lot of the potential to this character to do like a really cool like visual investigation, like a visual depiction of that. And of course, like the final info page goes into how his powers are developing, and that was all pretty cool, I thought. I guess like the creative team here just really has that nailed down, making his power set more intriguing, because back when he was introduced, I remember him more like as a joke character. Like the joke was literally just, this is a guy who has a lot of eyes, right? But now it's so much more than that. Also, one more thing I really enjoyed about this issue is one of perhaps my favorite info page, maybe this month, definitely this week, maybe even this year, honestly, is it's David's sort of investigation into like a photo of himself kissing Speed, and him figuring out like when was this photo taken, did I actually die like around that time, is it's more allusions to what we were talking earlier about like some flaws in the resurrection process, and I suspect that David is actually still alive in like a second iteration, and that is like a Chekhov's gun that's being set up.
That the dangerously depowered David Elaine is still out there. Awkward.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, if he is, I think there's any number of mutants who could use their powers to do some kind of like person combining procedure, maybe like meld them into one. That would be a neat.
But then you would have to
it,
kill like one of the buddies, like that. I feel like that would be ethically.
Oh, I don't mean just psychically. I mean like actually like physically as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, can you do that though? Like, I don't know.
Maybe one of the reality warpers, like Jamie Braddock, could do it as a favor or something.
But at that point, like, how long have the two been apart? Like, I guess like
right.
that's
so
another interesting question. Like,
yeah.
at what point do they start like being different people? Right.
Right.
Yeah, that's a question that comes up a couple of times with rogue dupes of Jamie Madrox in X Factor, and I don't know. There is always the option of just keeping the spare Riker that the transporter made around.
Thomas Riker, so he can come in and like sleep with women who other characters are trying to sleep with, and then they shake their fist at Thomas Riker. That's his proper role. He's the only person hotter than Riker because he's more chaotic than Riker. I mean, this issue is like the conclusion of an arc, I guess. There'll probably be some like cleanup afterward. It came a little sooner than I expected. I can't really guess what's going on, what's like being led toward here. One thing I can say for sure, because I checked, is that when Akihiro, after he has his nightmare, when he wakes up in the hot spring, and there's like a doki doki sound, that's like the typical Japanese onomatopoeia for knocking on a door, but also by extension like an overactive heartbeat. And then down at the bottom of that page, he says shikari shinai yo, which means like somebody, presumably himself, was not like firm, was not like holding fast or like being tough. I assume he's referring to his like reaction to the nightmare, like he wasn't he didn't keep it together, basically.
Thank you for that.
No problem. Those are your regular reports from the East Asian Languages and Cultures Department at Columbia, currently on strike. Maybe I'll have some more news about that next time we record.
Hey.
And and we got two more to race through here.
Should we yeah, do we want to talk X-Force or S.W.O.R.D. first?
let's start with X-Force because I already know that Ian is gonna have like one or
Deary
two like
dear.
bad things to say about this issue, so maybe we should end on a positive note.
Yeah, I think S.W.O.R.D was sort of the pièce de résistance of these ones, so let's go to X-Force, yeah.
All right, we do welcome on board new artist Gary Brown, who gets off to an interesting start as Black Tom dreams of being tickled by the Juggernaut.
It was a fine opening, like a good horror opening with some funny writing from Black Tom's character.
Yeah. Remember Black Tom? Remember having someone actually funny in this book? You don't have to remember him too hard. He is immediately eaten by Krakoa.
Yeah, but he'll be back.
Amazing.
So what didn't you like about this, Ian? It's just more of the same.
my God.
It's just continuing to
Oh my
build
God.
suspense when no more suspense building is needed. Is that it?
To all of your questions, yes. But specifically, what cheesed my grits was that when we get to where we left off last issue with Quentin and Sophie, a teenaged Emma Frost that a male character is dating, it's not treated like it matters. I had to go back and check the end of the previous issue to realize and be infuriated by the fact that we have once again skipped a fight scene between issues.
Which one?
The last issue ended on the cliffhanger of, oh noes, Jumbo Carnation has gone evil. And we then pick up with Quentin and Cuckoo back on Krakoa being like, gee, it sure was rough that Jumbo Carnation turned evil.
You're right.
Yeah, no, I didn't even notice that, honestly.
I mean, I don't think that fight would have been much.
No,
with
no.
A Frost clone and an Omega Psychic, both, they'll just knock him out,
Yeah, it probably wouldn't have been, very funny or interesting, but what in this book is.
Which speaks to the fact that, it was a bad cliffhanger to design in the first place, one that nobody even wants to follow up on or shoot the Chekhov's gun.
Because it's not like, oh wow, I really want to see that fight between Jumbo Carnation and whoever. Right?
Yeah, they did this. They did the same thing with the beach zombies a couple of issues back.
Oh no.
They did.
Where it was like, hey, something fun is going to happen in this book. Lol, nope. I call sexism. For all the guys online who go after Howard when Excalibur is far more cogent than this and has eventually gone somewhere.
I love Excalibur. Come on, everybody should stand Teenie Howard. She's not only the writer of Excalibur, she's like the co-editor of the entire line, right?
That's true. And I'm not the biggest fan of Excalibur, but she co-wrote some of the key event issues, and they were awesome, right?
Yeah, and she's getting her own second book shortly in X-Corp, where we are going to find out what the hell Warren and Monet have been up to since Hawkspox, and seeing them briefly in Empire X-Men, which was another Hickman Howard co-production.
Yeah. Let me say, okay, one thing I don't like about this issue, we agreed last time we talked about X-Force that the only good thing about Quentin's new costume were the glasses, and then suddenly he has normal glasses again with the bad parts of the costume. But on the positive side, I like that when he starts astrally projecting, suddenly he has the pink energy glasses on again. Okay, that's one. I also like the pink hang glider in the jungle. That's really cool. And the third thing I like is Beast having a stroke. Now, why do I like that? Do you guys like that? Do you hate it?
I had no issue with it because, it's just like Beast in a coma. I know it's serious.
No, I enjoyed seeing it, but I'm not sure if the reasons for that might be problematic.
It's not because of Schadenfreude that I like it. I think Beast does exactly what you'd expect him to do afterward. He says, kill him, he'll come back healthy. That makes sense. We won't have any kind of like, will Beast wake up? That's stupid. That would be stupid, right? But this could, I keep saying this over and over, and probably it won't, but it could be the beginning of some resolution here, right? Like, Beast wakes up, and he is acting different. And it seems like the previous Beast was like compromised somehow, or Beast wakes up and something about him has been like healed or improved. This is, I think, the first time he's died since the resurrection process was. And we know that there can be like changes to their powers, or like this could like if there's any moment at which to stop doing the same shit over and over with Beast and start like answering the question instead of asking it over and over, it's when he dies and comes back.
Yeah.
So that's like my hope.
I actually, you know what? I'm actually starting to be just slightly more positive on this book, but just ever so slightly. I actually reread the Beast Commits Genocide issue, and I thought it was really well written. And whereas at the time I didn't care so much for it, I guess. But yeah, about this issue, I'm surprised because I don't think this is like the worst issue of X-Force, like by any stretch of the imagination. I didn't love it, but some of the things in it were kind of fun. I guess you had Sage getting way too drunk. You had Scott just cucking Logan when he's like, Jean, just come to bed, and like all the social awkwardness that seemed to go along with that.
That scene frustrated me because here's the thing. The audience already knows that Jean is stooping both of them. That's not the question.
Right.
The only thing we care about, it's 2021, is are Cyclops and Wolverine fucking each other?
Well,
yes, it seems like
we
no
know the
from
answer to that,
scene.
but we also know
do.
that they are too cowardly to give it
In
to
our
us
hearts.
definitively.
No, you are not allowed to do that. You are not allowed to do that. It is 2021, because on the one hand, I see, yes, this is Wolverine and Cyclops. These are A-list superhero characters. Can they really do that? The answer is,
they have
well, you have to now. You put it out there. Seal the deal.
True.
Well, I think what's going on in that scene is, like, Cyclops and Logan are together on Tuesday nights, and Cyclops and Jean are together on Thursday nights, and Logan and Jean are together on Wednesday nights, and it's a Thursday night, and Jean is like suddenly tempted to like spend a second night in a row with Logan, and Cyclops is like, no, honey, that's not the schedule, and she's like, all right.
Yeah, that's possible. Does anyone think it's weird that we're spending so few like intimate character moments with these three? Because they are
weird.
there, but it's also just like like these are like basically our three main like X-Men characters like in the eyes of many people. But it's of course in the Grant Morrison run, which in many ways this whole iteration of the X-Men is kind of a follow up to. The three of them were like the main characters with Emma, I guess. But so I guess like I would enjoy like at this point, because we're almost like 2 years into this, I would enjoy like some more explicit like depiction of their dynamics, I guess.
Yeah, that's
like an Alan Moore level porno comic.
Oh God, I would love it.
No. Listeners, we felt that we had given short shrift to our last three comics in the episode, X Factor, X-Force, and S.W.O.R.D. So we're coming at you now with a addendum to be the last portion of this episode, recorded one day later. Gives us a little more time to talk about these. And Ian, you were just saying that it looks like in addition to Japanese, there's Gaelic in X Factor?
Yeah, I don't know if any of the weird breakless series of letters that just seem to be surrounding Siren like a cloud on some of these pages, whether they're actually intelligible Gaelic words or phrases. But due to the letters appearing and the fact that some of them have accents on them, it's just like, oh yeah,
You're
Celtic death
absolutely
goddess.
Yes, it's got to be. But you know, a bit like Welsh, it has so many consonants in it that we can be confident that it's not meant to be read in a way that's even remotely what's the term, like
Phonetic for
phonetic for
English.
English, right? So who knows how you pronounce that or what it means? Somebody out there does. I don't.
Yeah, depending upon whether it's, meant to be modern Irish or some one of the archaic dialects of which Scots Gaelic and Manx are also descended.
Right. It's like and is it exactly the same? Yeah, it is both her first appearance when she's sneaking up behind Akihiro, and then 2 pages later it's the exact same series of characters. Like she's uttering some kind of like chant or line from a poem or something like that.
Or a spell.
A spell, same thing.
Yeah, X Factor is consistently my favorite book of the week, any week that it comes out. Often my favorite book of the month because I I personally, as a queer male and a deep dive X-Men continuity super dork, yeah, I can't imagine anyone else is being pandered to more than me by this particular magazine.
I just realized how good the onomatopoeia is when the one of one of Morgan's like spider legs or something like hits the ground, and it says "kasnikt," and then under that there's more Gaelic. Yeah, we just wanted to make sure we didn't like skip over X Factor too fast. It was, you know, in terms of our expectations of this issue, I think it could have been a really like by the numbers Die Hard concept, like in that one Next Generation episode where Picard is sneaking around his own ship, or it could have been some pretty boring horror stuff, potentially, but instead it was like, you know, much better than either of those two.
Yeah, it was fast paced. I like that about it, especially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where I can easily imagine somebody else spending the entire issue with the boys trying to escape the Morrigan in the boneyard. Instead, for our final act, we get ourselves a big dick heroes moment once all of the established and experienced characters aren't dead anymore, where we see, yeah, when you don't get the drop on them, these are competent professional superheroes who do cool things for a living on the daily. Polaris, North Star, Aurora, Dawn, and Rachel get the job done with those motherfucking zombies in their motherfucking boneyard. Um, I did appreciate also the moment where North Star just tells David and Trevor to feel good about yourselves, guys. You're doing great.
Yeah, he yeah, it's not in his nature to say stuff like that, but he's smart enough to know what a leader should do, right? So he's like sort of going through the motions of it.
It's like you just sit tight here because you don't have offensive powers and there's a death goddess and zombies.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
He makes a good decision there. Yeah, let's just get the like near Omegas out here for a few moments. We'll be fine. Don't need Xavier. It's funny that like the whole buildup of the corpses in the front yard plotline was just all for like a few little bits of this climax, right? Unless they're going to start it up again. It seems like I would have guessed that, as you said, it would have been like all about zombies in the boneyard for like a whole issue at some point, since they sort of eased into that over the course of 2-3 issues. But
yeah, it was. We did have Chekhov's body farm there, which, yeah, seems like a rather naive idea in retrospect.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was the
Right.
sort of thing like. Yeah, like it's amazing that we didn't suspect this from the very moment that it was mentioned. Honestly, like, oh, zombies coming! They're gonna have zombies soon.
Yeah, but it's I liked it a lot because it's like it makes use of the horror potential of that setup. And that's why I appreciate it when they first introduced the boneyard. It's just it's very distressing, and they bring it back in exactly the right way, right?
So a little more on X-Force then.
Yeah. Wait, I had one thing to add that we didn't really talk about so far is the cliffhanger, or sort of like the I guess the implication that we have like the second Quentin running around, sort of like the, it's I what I dislike about it is that it's, like it's a bit cliche. It's like the I'm you but stronger cliche, I'm you but evil, or whatever. But I guess like to some extent I appreciated this more than other X-Force issues, because it's, for me it did more in the way of like actual character exploration, because Quentin has been like a huge dick, and in some cases like a terrorist or whatever. Like he's been depicted as like a lot of very like contradictory things. Like in some ways he's just kind of an asshole, in some issues he's like a school rebellious type.
Sure.
And then again, yeah, it's like I feel like it's very due to explore like his thoughts about his previous iterations and his previous conduct and whatever. I feel like that makes sense. And it's a bit ambiguous, like in this issue, how exactly this telepathic entity works. Like, is this actually just like him before he died the last time, or what? Like, it's not exactly spelled out, right?
Right. I do think he did successfully die when the S.W.O.R.D was in his torso. What's that? Yeah.
Yeah, as an Omega mutant, that is the one thing that we have successfully seen Quentin do time and again in this book, is die like a chump. Although maybe one did walk away. Maybe so many goddamn Quentins have died that they didn't even need to clone one. There's just like a vengeful Quentin out there, a Thomas Riker, that has been forgotten by the X-Men because, well, they thought he died. They just made a fresh one. It wasn't their first
that's
rodeo.
what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I guess it's like I like that sort of stuff because it explores like the more distressing aspects of the resurrection process. I feel like I bring this up every time that happens in X-Force as well, of course, or X Factor. Sorry. I mean, I like that. Fine. It's just, I guess we'll have to see next issue if that's being like worked with in a way that makes sense or is interesting.
I mean, I think. I think that's interesting, but I don't know really where that would be going. Like, let's say there's both another Prodigy and another Quentin out there, and they both don't want to die. They both don't want to, and neither do the ones who are on Krakoa. And in fact, the ones who aren't there, like, resent Krakoa maybe for this like dilemma that they've been put in. I can see exactly one long-term arc there, which is like, sooner or later there's a team of villains in this comic who are just copies of characters on Krakoa who want to stop Krakoa from continuing.
Well, I mean, not necessarily, right? They could go the Madeline Pryor route with it and just be like, no, they are not gonna get resurrected. If they are gonna get killed, like that's pretty much it, right?
But they won't be killed. They won't be killed.
What?
They won't be killed. Just like,
I mean, if he's a Quentin, he'll be killed.
Right?
That's what Quentins do.
No, that's stopped now. I think.
No, but what I'm saying is like, let's say we actually do have like another David running around, and it's like, again, that's what I'm saying. It's like, to what extent can we still say that it is the same person if they've made like a lot of like let's say that other David doesn't even have his powers to the same extent that our quote unquote our prodigy does, and that that person has made like very different experiences throughout the last few months. Like, at what point can you say, okay, this is no longer like the same person? But if one of them were to like die in some way, like, of course they wouldn't get resurrected, or maybe even like perhaps more darkly, like maybe it's in the interest of some like entity on Krakoa to just get rid of one of these copies, and just to keep it under wraps, right? And
sure.
So you could go really dark with that sort of stuff.
But that's still like the conclusion of each of those little arcs is still pretty much what we've already been seeing. Not in the sense that Quentin dies, but in the sense that like Beast makes a dark decision. The dark
Right.
action is executed. Everyone
No,
feels
but I'm saying, like,
uncomfortable
you could-
about it. That's like
Yeah.
that's the same place we've been going, which we still aren't
But
sure.
you could
what it is.
escalate. You could escalate that tension, right?
Yeah.
We've had the Madeline Pryor stuff. Nobody really gives a fuck about that except for Alex, obviously. But
Even
like, you know,
Madeline made a joke to that effect.
but you know, like, nobody really gives a fuck about that. But you know, as soon as it happens to someone who is actually like cared about, that could lead to some sort of like political tensions within Krakoa. And of course, we already have like some actors who are dissatisfied with the resurrection process, who have political power in Krakoa, like Mystique, right? So I guess like you would have to escalate that tension and have, you know, the foundations of Krakoa crumble with them, and, you know, write something interesting around that. And if, you know, if the characters were being written well, you know, but that being said, you know, like, this is like a larger conversation. I don't know how much of that is going to happen in X-Force, right?
Well, that would be across all the comics. In a way, that was what I meant. Like, there's a team. It might not be strictly speaking a team, but multiple different powerful mutants who aren't new characters. They do have a lot of development, but they are like surplus copies of familiar characters to us, who are like hardened by life in hiding, and who
Right.
do kind of like bring about whatever the downfall of Krakoa to some extent, whenever it's going to happen. I just don't see that coming out of nowhere. What I see this is just more Russia stuff, like whatever lab he's astrally traveling into.
Yeah.
They probably cloned from the copy of him that died in Moscow or wherever it was. They probably
yeah,
cloned
that's
like
possible.
a bunch of sort of like weak versions of him, and they have them operating in like a hive mind. That's my guess.
Yeah, I wouldn't like that at all. Like, that's kind of what happened in was it Cable?
Yeah.
Where you got all the
yeah,
like
but,
the
but,
cable
but
clones
in what
running
way?
around.
In what way isn't Kid Omega and Kid Cable? In what way aren't they the same character?
Yes.
They are
Yeah.
telepathic, telekinetic bad boys dating teenaged clones of Emma Frost, now
Yeah.
facing an evil clone. Of themselves, which we are supposed to take seriously as the arch villain of their books.
You're right. Well, they are. Are they their books? Like, that's something I was going to say. Is like, it's starting to feel like Quentin has been the main character of X-Force all along, which in one way is a good thing because he's not Wolverine, and in another way is a good thing because he's not Beast, but in another way is, you know, you can't...
There are another 7 characters who are technically part of the cast of this book.
Yeah.
Did Jean ever really leave? Did Colossus ever really join? What are Sage and Forge's roles in all of this?
We really thought
Yeah,
that
I mean,
it would...
I guess like I feel like to some extent this just, you know, this is the way it appears to us because Quentin has been focused on throughout the last, like, what was it, like 2 or 3 issues, right?
I'd say,
It's not
in a
necessarily-
way, ever since the one where the Central American microstate was given over to, like, plant, cat, ruin, ancient, whatever, that one is when he sort of started to, like, really come into his own, I feel. He hadn't stopped dying every issue yet, but he did become a little bit more than a joke, I think, from that
Yeah,
issue
I mean,
on.
I guess I agree with that, but that's like a very gradual thing.
Yeah.
Like, he was, it was to a large extent, like, still played for Lost, and I
Right.
wouldn't say that he's, like, the main character. Like, I don't get me wrong, he's definitely the main character in these past few issues. But I absolutely agree with Ian, with what you were saying in regards to, like, this being, like, way too, like, weirdly similar to what's
Right.
going on in Cable. Actually, I wonder how, like, that slipped past, like, the editorial team. I don't know.
I don't know either. It seems like Cable has been a sort of failed experiment all along. I don't know. Like, it...
But I
liked
but
it.
we liked
Me
it,
too,
right?
but it
Yeah,
hasn't,
that's
like...
the thing.
It hasn't really come through on any of the, like... I mean, when you have those kind of, like, tidbits of some whole other time and place scattered throughout
Right.
something, that's, like, a big... It's more than a Chekhov's gun. You're saying that, like, this is where we're going here. You're, like, yelling it in the face of the reader, like, see the red soil, see the adult Cable, wonder about that. And it's starting to seem like that's not really going anywhere, you know? So I just see
But
like
we don't know
I
that.
don't
It's
know.
like we've only read
The
like what, like 8 issues. Like
yeah,
it's
we're
that's
eight
gonna be
issues into
resolved
what
in
is
like issue 12. I mean, that's okay, right?
yeah, it's we've only got four. We're 2/3 way through this ride, and I got to say that it could have been a little more solid. I think that X of Swords hurt it.
yeah,
I think
Yeah,
that
for sure.
it benefited the least of any of the
right.
books from X of Swords because
Well, I
the book had just started and
It's sort of
we kind of interrupt its opening storyline and then pick up with its opening storyline where it feels like the rest of Krakoa and the X-Men universe is kind of moving on, going somewhere else,
right.
including in S.W.O.R.D, where Cable is a principal character.
And including in yeah, and including in the kind of alternate lineups of characters that were during X of Swords, in which Cable was like one of the most main characters across like all the books, whichever book was carrying on the plot
It's
line
so
of X
weird,
of
right? Because
Swords.
he has issues in mainline X-Men where he's
Yeah.
pretty prominent. He has his own ongoing title. He's a main character, a main cast member in S.W.O.R.D.
Yeah.
He has like I'm sure I'm missing like a book, but it's like people really love like Teen Cable, or I guess like writers love putting him in there. Yeah.
That though, Ian, what you just described is the exact situation of S.W.O.R.D as well. So we may as well transition on.
Yeah,
to that.
let's see into S.W.O.R.D. S.W.O.R.D, you got one issue in which to introduce your cast before plunging into a 3-part crossover tie-in storyline tying into Venom.
Everything.
But
Yeah.
you know
Oh,
what? Oh, sorry, Ian, you go first.
no,
I keep interrupting
you go first. Let's
All right,
dive,
I'm
let's
gonna
dive
say
into
it.
this one.
You're not gonna like hearing this. I thought that Sword 4 was the strongest issue out of all of these.
Oh, well, I liked
It
it.
was so good. It was so
I
good.
don't know about strongest. Hard to say.
I'd say it was up there. I really, really liked this issue. I'm really
It's
loving
so
this
good.
series. I don't know what I was expecting from Al Ewing Does X-Men, but it is not it's not Immortal Hulk.
No.
Knowing that it has the potential to go there in terms of horror and strangeness is nice, but obviously this piece has its very own mood.
You know what? I do think there's some I guess like commonalities between this and Immortal Hulk in terms of what some of its strengths are, and it's like not the like overt stuff in terms of tone or whatever, but some of the more like subtle stuff in terms of you have very well written characters with like agendas and plans and intelligent dialogue that draws on a lot of like lore and backstory, right? With I guess like with Immortal Hulk, I'm less able to judge it because I don't know a lot about Hulk comics. But you know, whenever I read into some of this stuff, you know, like it's usually concepts that have been introduced in like the 90s or whatever. Like I'm pretty sure Devil Hulk is from like the Devil Hulk persona is from like a 1999 comic originally, and then being recontextualized in Immortal Hulk. And this is, I guess, a similar. You know, the scene that exemplifies this the best is, you know, Hope Summers and Abigail Brand. That whole dialogue scene, it was so good.
Yeah.
So first of all, these are two of my favorite characters. I know a lot of people don't like them, but you know, I think they're really strong. We have this like, you have both parties giving pretty strong like. Pretty strongly motivated like arguments about okay, why is this like a bad way to approach this situation, blah blah blah. And it's you know, that's why I don't mind the King in Black stuff too much, because like the situation it puts these characters in is like that's very much like thematically relevant. Like for Abigail, it's a lot about okay, where are my allegiances? Are my allegiances really with Krakoa? Do I have like, because she's like way too much of like I don't want to say free thinker, because that would make it sound like reductive and obnoxious and pretentious. But like, you know, like she always has like some like ulterior motive and not necessarily like just like allegiance with one like entity or state or whatever the case may be, right? That's it's when we saw her like 180 from being like a S.W.O.R.D agent to like an underground mutant resistance supporter like a couple of years ago, right? And it's stuff like that. But Hope, of course, also makes like really good points because like like Hope has seen some shit and she knows like what some of the issues with Abigail's plan here. So that was really intelligently written. That was so good, I thought.
Yeah, it was great seeing Hope Summers come out of, feels like it's been a minute, to read Brand's plan to filth, just outline, as much as we, the readers, may enjoy spending time with Abigail in her slightly labyrinthine head. Hope does point out that this is more complicated than it needed to be, and trusting
Right,
people might have enabled them to help and do this more successfully.
but I do love that Abigail has she has this stubbornness to her that's very much based around her like it's a sort of like arrogance of like seeing everybody as like beneath her because she spends so much time in space, so much time like thinking about like the larger picture, like the interplanetary politics picture of things, I guess. And like the long-term like mankind question and mutant kind or whatever. So that's why that one line was so great. She's like, "Oh, you're all like Earthlings to me," right?
Yeah.
She has like a very complicated hybrid identity too, which I think is being explored in like a pretty intricate way. And then what more did I like about this? Like just like her ruthlessness in general. Like that's something that's been pretty integral to the character. I'm pretty sure that's gonna be like challenged and explored in this. And I trust Al Ewing with problematizing that and developing that further in the same way that he has problematized and developed aspects of the different like Hulk personas again. It's a weird comparison. It's not like the most intuitive comparison, but I do think there's some commonalities there.
It ain't easy being green.
Right,
But
true. It's not like this is like a scene to show like how cool Abigail is exclusively, although I do think it's a bit more complicated than that. But that's what I'm saying. Like Hope has gone through some shit. She's grown up with like adult Cable. She's like a strategy brain, although she's also like a kind of a soldier at heart, right?
I guess so.
It's interesting.
I mean, she was a baby when in the like issues that I read with her in Adult Cable, like
right.
Yeah, but go on.
Yeah, but she grew up with him like the first 16 years in her life, right? So I guess like a couple more great things about this issue like follows up on some of the strengths of the last few issues where we have a very cool portrayal of Manifold's powers. It's just it's the way he defeats Null. Wait, is it pronounced
No.
It's just Null with a silent K, yeah, so that it's a homonym with the word for nothing.
Yeah, true. The way he defeats Null in these issues is or in this issue, I guess, it's so badass, and I like we have a variation on like the 9-panel grid where the 9 panels have like different shapes and sizes, and it's also like very kinetic the way they keep jumping through portals. So this is like these are some killer ass like action pages. And then we have one of my favorite character moments in this
comes
in this issue with Frenzy. Yeah, like holy shit. Like her did you guys catch the reference about Scott?
Yeah.
About Scott, that she loved Scott or someone?
Yeah, she's like, I've only ever loved one person. If he'd felt the same, you'd be my stepson.
I don't remember
Right,
any
like
kind of thing where I never read about Frenzy before this.
Oh,
Was
so
that Age of X?
Yes. So this is spoiler for Mike Carey's run on X-Men Legacy and some New Mutants issues. So in Age of X, which is like I guess I can say that it's like Age of Apocalypse-esque like parallel world or whatever, but it turns out to be like created by like one of the alters of Legion.
Okay, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Right. And in that world, Cyclops was called Basilisk because he was wearing like a basilisk outfit because his eyelids had been like removed when he was being tortured.
Oh my god. Wow.
Yeah, it's so extra too. But like, and he was, I don't know if he was married or like partners with Frenzy in that world. And then when the world reverted back, they still had a lot of their memories. But of course, like when the two of them were kissing, like you had Emma interjecting because Cyclops was dating Emma at the time. And there's just so much, there's so much heartbreak to go into that with Frenzy. So that's what I remembered. And that's exactly, I guess, like I feel the same way that Ian felt about X Factor, in that you have all these little like bits and pieces of X-Men lore that are being picked back up on, like in these right. It's just so good.
I have a lot of questions about these pieces of lore. Like what are Frenzy's powers exactly? She's super strong. What is it? What's the like?
Yeah, she's super strong, super tough, historically has anger management issues. First showed up as a member of the Alliance of Evil in early 80s X Factor. Then showed up again as one of Magneto's acolytes in the 90s, and yeah, by the aughts was showing up in X-Men comics as a good guy, kind of, sort of, because yeah, she was big and tough and mean, but was always depicted as actually a bit more philosophical, one of those quote-unquote evil mutants who kind of had a point.
I see. I'm just wondering about like how she says like nothing can harm me. Actually, at first when I was reading that, I was like, is this Cecilia Reyes inside who's been like fucked with? And then I was like, no, it's definitely Frenzy. And then, so what does she mean about like just because she's super strong or like, I don't know, as tough as plenty of characters, it doesn't mean she's like Wolverine and can't be killed, right? So what does she mean about that? Because it seems it seems like the same process that works at incapacitating everyone else just doesn't work on her all the way because of her powers. So I'm just wondering about that.
Well, that's a good question. I don't know enough about her powers.
Yeah, I don't know how Joanna Cargill's strength, toughness, and meanness rank against other characters to have allowed her to shake out of her null sack. I don't even know.
Oh wow, she is like real. Yeah, her frenzy skin has been described as steel hard, impervious to high caliber bullets, bladed weapons composed of most conventional materials. Yeah, that's tougher than a lot of tough characters. And then another important question is like, so Manifold blasts Null with a piece of the sun.
That's fun!
Is this like the Null, or is this just a Null?
No, I'm pretty sure this is the Null, right? But I guess like we have to read into King and Black more to understand like how exactly like is he choosing these hosts.
Yeah, and like the whole King and Black event can't just end here in S.W.O.R.D. 4, can it?
Oh no, I guess like no. I guess the implication isn't that Null is being killed here, but that he's driven out of Cable.
Oh, okay, they managed to destroy his Cable post, but only.
Yeah, probably. I guess like again, we're not caught up on King and Black enough, but I don't even think it matters for the purpose of this book. That's why I'm saying like this book has handled the tie-in stuff relatively well, I think. Because it made,
handled it incredibly well.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Told a very fun story without us having to be on top of what's going on in the main event.
Yeah,
book.
and like that Null in this issue isn't like a super like nuanced character or whatever, but it doesn't have to be, right? Like what he represents is like the sort of like space level threat that S.W.O.R.D is exploring, right? So it's like he puts the characters in like in like exactly the right situation where these characters can shine, right? That's what a good villain has to do sometimes.
Yeah, a lot of the time. Yeah, and indeed, it's just a sort of like a situation for not only these characters we mentioned, but also WizKid to really
Yes.
pop off.
Yes.
Is this the whole?
Yeah.
Was this the whole reason for choosing Mentalo and his think tank was to like then just give it to WizKid, and now from now on he has a tank body?
Yeah,
He
yeah.
is, that's
WizKid,
where was so
WizKid
weird. Like the
turns,
big transformer thing, that was funny.
Yeah.
yeah, turning the think tank first into a mecha and then into a disco.
Yeah.
I love how Gold Balls just sits on the transformer think tank thing, just just like cheering him on. That's that's such a Gold Balls thing to do.
There are so many weird, wonderful moments in this book, especially toward the end, from Proteus's phonetically transcribed Scots to Magneto's weird Shakespearean moment with Cortez's ponytailed skull.
Yeah. Do we want to take some time to hypothesize about that? I mean, it means that he wants to have a meeting with Cortez about how to like trust humans less. Like, what do you think it means exactly? Like,
It's difficult to say because, yeah, the Magneto Fabian Cortez romance was a bad romance. It doesn't lead anywhere good. It's a few times we've been around that track. And I find it difficult to believe that a Magneto who is currently surrounded with all of his, well, the closest that Magneto gets to good influences here on Krakoa, that he's going to pay too much genuine attention to Cortez's.
I can't see Magneto really like going full Magneto. There's no like. It would be the most unsatisfying way to bring down Krakoa if Magneto was just like, "I'm back, baby." Like, come on, what like. He's got
that would
No,
be so
no.
bad.
the whole subtle effectiveness of the current incarnation of his character is that he has exactly what he had on Genosha. Effectively, he is like one of the most powerful people on an island nation, recognized by most other countries as sovereign, belonging to mutants, in like fully like accentuating its mutant nature, like deep diving into like mutant culture, mutant abilities. He has nothing to complain about, and so there's no like, and it always makes me think back to how he kind of was a better person while he was running Genosha, because he like had those goals realized, and like contrary to what you might expect of some villains, he was actually going to do a good job with those goals.
And that's what that's one of the greatest points that Grant Morrison's X-Men made, was that like as the leader of Genosha, even after death, like just like that image of Magneto, that was like in itself like a very inspiring thing. And then I guess like when he's just back on his bullshit, like building like the human extermination camp in Central Park or whatever, like that's when he's that's when his appeal like really goes down the shit.
Yeah. When he's like post-traumatic and also the bacterial evil and stuff. Like, but it's like, what could he hope to build
Bacteria.
if he's going to go on back on his bullshit for mutant supremacy? What could he hope to accomplish with that isn't already here right now, firmly held in his hand?
But also, I like that it's if I may add like one more thing about Magneto, like I like that it's slightly different from his like Genosian days, right? Because he's not like the singular leader, and he's not like the and also it's different from Utopia, because he's not like the subservient figure who just does whatever Cyclops wants him to do. But because like here he's one of the leaders, but primarily he's like a folk hero almost, right?
He is. I mean, he's one of,
Like-
12, 9, 10 I wouldn't say that having one dictator and having 10 oligarchs is all that different a situation. You know,
No,
what
I
mean? When
agree,
you
but
spread
he's
that
like-
number
like
across
for-
like 18 million or whatever the population is. Like,
right.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying for the purpose of his character, like it's slightly different because like primarily what is his function in Krakoa? He's definitely one of the leaders, but what like many Magneto-centric issues focus on, like that one X-Men issue that was basically just him like the tie-in action stuff for whatever, I forgot the name of the last big space crossover. But it's so much about like how is he being celebrated by the Krakoan people as like this again, as almost like a mythological like hero figure.
A lot of characters
think
are
that's-
getting that though, right? Like Krakoa itself,
Sure, but him especially,
Apocalypse, Nightcrawler a little bit. I don't think him only. I mean, the in terms of like who we've seen humans worship the most, it's been Wolverine. In terms of
yeah,
who we've
that's
seen mutants worship the most, in a sense, it's Apocalypse.
Nah, I guess but does Apocalypse have like the same appeal to like the random Krakoan youth? I feel like I feel like mainline X-Men made like a point to show that like Jesus Christ, they really like just are in love with him. Like he's like a rock star and like a mythological hero.
Right, you're talking about the issue where he like really ramps his powers up to defeat the plant invaders from space.
Yeah, but
not
also
the
there's
plant
a scene
invaders
like
from
that.
the ocean, nor the plant invaders from the Central American microstate, but the plant invaders from space.
From space,
Yeah.
right?
The plant invaders
that
from the
issue.
Avengers Fantastic Four crossover that we were tying into at that point in time.
Nor the giant
I-
plant invader that is the island of Araco. Nor that, but rather.
Wait, but what's
Plants.
the name of that crossover? How could I forget? Oh,
Empire.
Empire, right? But no, yeah, I was referring to that, but also to the scene in the first mainline X-Men issue.
Yeah, Magneto is the rock star of the mutant world, and yeah, I can't see him, giving in to his old drug dealer now.
I agree.
So instead, the question is, what does he see himself getting out of Cortez if he's not falling for that trap? And what problems can Cortez cause anyway?
I mean, I think one of the things that the Krakoa could do more if it wanted, and it's probably good that they haven't, is like really fuck with human societies. Like they really could. Like the furthest they've gone toward that is like buying up real estate in what's it called, Madripoor. But they could become. If any listeners out there have ever read the Culture novels, like those sort of respond to Star Trek in a way by asking like, if you have this utopia and it exists among non-utopian societies, should the utopia try to transform them or not? Is it colonialism or not? And they'd probably do whether they should or not. So I mean, there's all kinds of ways where, I mean, Magneto might decide we're gonna like. Never mind. I shouldn't hypothesize. We should call it. We've gone so long. We should call it.
Yeah, you're right. One last thing I want to add. I really like the like handwritten note from Charles. Like that's like I like that that alliance that's been teased in Hoxpox is now sort of being not called into question, but that disagreement is resurfacing, I guess.
Only the future knows for sure, and the future holds. Yeah, we're in the next 2 weeks, the rest of the month, we've got issues of Excalibur's getting to 19, Cable's getting to 9. We're going to have X-Men 19 as we continue our peek into the vault, and X-Men Legends 2 for more totally radical 90s action.
I'm so curious.
Until then, school kids, Krakoa is for all mutants. No symbiotes allowed. Mutants 1, symbiotes 0. Sorry, latex perverts.
The king is gone, but he's not forgotten. This is the story of Johnny Rotten. It's better to burn